These people are too noisy. Oliver couldn't help but feel speechless at their stupidity. They had sharp tongues and liked to lick the boots of stronger people. Something you'd expect from the children of vessel families. It was not that he blamed them. They were children and were raised in that way. How could they know what was right and what was wrong? It was their parents' fault that they raised them as such. Anyways, if they mess with him too much, he will simply teach them a lesson. Look, the elders are here. Oliver looked and saw a white-bearded man arrive at the scene. He had a straight back and sharp gaze. His aura was powerful and intimidating, truly worthy of being an elder of the Mystic Purge clan. He subconsciously used cosmic void gaze to observe deeper into the elder's true powers and instantly was met with a strong and radiant light. He squinted his eyes. The Aspera the elder contained was enormous. He could not look without squinting at the direction. However, it was still not as strong as Jenna's Aspera, not by a close shot. Her Aspera was like a mountain. It was so bright and powerful that he could not even look in that direction without getting blinded. The elder frowned. No sooner did he arrive, he felt a very unpleasant sense of discomfort for some reason. He could not help but look at the little children looking at him in awe. However, he could not understand the sudden feeling. It was as if someone was observing him deeply, as if prying into his secrets. He neglected the feeling first, as he was unable to sense any abnormality, and focused on the children gathered before him. Today was an auspicious day, and any carelessness on his end would result in a heavy punishment. Even Miss Nadia was present to participate in the demon hunt. "Greetings, Elder." A lot of the children instantly bowed their heads. This elder was a powerhouse in this world of exorcists and demons. Even their family heads would not dare to disrespect them. Seeing the obedience of the children, the elder was satisfied and nodded. "Raise your heads. You are the proud talent that the clan raised. Show your worth and make us proud." He said a few complimentary words. Looking at the group, the heirs of the main family did not bow to him like others. His gaze narrowed as he saw a boy with white hair and beautiful gem-like eyes, sharing a deep resemblance to Nadia. Of course, he knew about Oliver. As a clan elder, he was responsible to learn about every heir properly for the sake of the future. Unexpectedly, a waste was also born in the patriarch's bloodline, which shocked him and others quite a lot. But given Nadia's dark title and huge talent, they did not pay him much attention. But suddenly, they were asked to invite him to the demon hunt as well, by someone very special. It was confusing, and they were all quite appalled at the order from that entity. Of course, they did not refuse and instantly let the servants inform him too. Meanwhile, they put the capable ones to another task: gather every bit of information about Oliver since he was born. Information about what activities he had been doing recently, what sort of plays he has been into, and what secrets he was carrying with him. The special entity who had ordered them was the clan guardian herself. Why would the clan guardian suddenly show interest in the unknown low-profiled boy? It couldn't be that she just wanted to retain the tradition of the clan alone. They refused to believe that. If they were so naive, then they would not have been the members of the top 5 clans at the moment. They did question the guardian, but she did not elaborate her plans or anything. Sure enough, something was being cooked. They became sure of it after investigation's results were out. The boy Oliver, he was changing every day, visiting the clan market regularly, purchasing many strange items regularly. From the reports, it was said that he had purchased a variety of weapons from different blacksmiths. In addition to that, he also purchased many martial art techniques. And from the maids, it was clear that he was training in his courtyard every day as well. From this, it did not take them long to join dots and come to realize that he had started to train on the path to become a physical exorcist. A bit surprising since they did not expect this turn of events, but it was not too big of a deal. Everyone knew, whether they wanted to agree or not, that physical exorcists would always be inferior to spiritual or Aspera exorcists. Of course, there were many great exorcists in the physical path, but not every exorcist following that path had the talent or dedication to be like that. Not only that, even Aspera exorcists could train in that path and gain double advantage in that aspect. In the end, They felt it was fine as long as Oliver was able to prove himself more useful to the clan in the future. Looking at Oliver's blank expression, the elder could not help but feel disappointed. No respect, no idea what was going on, lost in his own world. He felt that Oliver did not have a proper attitude fitting for an exorcist. It could be seen that he had a biased opinion. He did not care when the other main heirs refused to bow, but he was particularly judgmental when Oliver was lost in his thoughts. Oliver himself was not aware of the elder's state of mind, and even if he knew about it, he wouldn't care much. You were an elder. But what actions did you have to be acknowledged as one? Power? Sure. But the true respect one has towards an elderly person cannot be gained just by that. Did he personally guide him when he was isolated by the clan? Did he provide him with any resources when he needed them? Did he provide any techniques belonging to the clan when he wanted to improve? Did they care for his growth before the clan guardian announced his participation? No. So he had all the reason to not care about the elder's opinions or reputation. All the children are now here. I will now proceed to brief you all about the event. First of all, the event will be happening in a forest this year, a forest owned by the clan. After that, we will be assigning you with a sealing talisman specially made by our best experts. Use that carefully to capture the demon. Once used, it would not be usable again. If you feel that you have defeated a strong demon, then use it. If you feel that you can do better, then kill the demon and move forward. The test duration would be 1 day. As soon as the time limit is over, you will be directly brought out of the forest no matter what. On to the next matter. Competition is good, but threatening the life of others intentionally will lead to harsh punishments and disqualifications. Of course, if you try to kill another candidate, prepare for the worst. You will all be supervised by elders of the clan. Your performance will be assessed properly. So if you're thinking of cheating in this, then I advise that you better give up before getting demotion. He paused and looked at the dazed faces of the children before him. He further added, the highest level of a demon that you would find in that forest would be a minor level demon. Hearing this, the crowd had mixed expressions. Whispering started again. Minor level? That's it? Are they underestimating us? We belong to one of the 5 greatest clans. This is humiliating. Just a minor level demon? They should be as easy as catching chickens. A hot-blooded guy said, hey, maybe there's a catch. What catch? I was expecting to face at least a mid-level demon. I even bragged about it to my little brother. A girl sneered and said, ch. I even brought my ancestor's old sword that he used to use when he was a kid. The blood of a minor demon would stain its reputation. Another dumb-looking child said. Thus they came up with a solution, and that was to disintegrate or destroy the bodies of their fellow exorcists. A painful thing to do. Expecting to destroy the body of a comrade that once fought alongside you was not easy for anyone, but it was for the survival of humanity. At that time, it was either now or never. If they did not take this step, then the very existence of humanity would be at extinction. With a heavy heart, they started to disintegrate the bodies of exorcists that fell in battle. And this proved quite useful too, as the exorcists started to slowly push back against the demons. But it was getting harder and harder to achieve this, as the demons also realized this strategy of theirs and started to hoard the corpses as soon as they killed a bunch. This led the exorcists to develop another cruel strategy for these clever demons. With a certain technique, they started to develop themselves in such a way that their bodies soon turned into a lethal poison for the demons. Their blood, their flesh, their espera, all of it soon became a curse for the demons. As soon as the demons would dare to eat them after their deaths, the terrifying poison would immediately destroy them both physically and mentally. It would directly cripple them forever. And this poison method was so effective that till this date in the future, no demon was able to counter this. The exorcists kept the poison and the technique a strongly guarded secret. Even among the exorcist community, very few were aware of the actual method, and the rest were just fed the mild version of that poison. It was simple. The weaker the exorcist, the milder the dose. If the exorcist grew stronger, then they would naturally be told more things. It was reasonable, since the weaker exorcists would provide less power to demons, and thus were given a lesser dose, while the bodies of stronger exorcists would tremendously benefit the demonic being, so they would need to be allocated more of the dosage. Nonetheless, this poison method worked well, and now humanity and demonic forces were on an almost equal standing for a very long period of time. Neither side was gaining an advantage. It was clear that the poison method worked very well, but the method to disintegrate the bodies of exorcists was still followed in some areas. It was now frowned upon slightly now that humanity has advanced so much. Of course, there were some stupid normal people who felt that this was immoral and protested in the normal human cities against this too. It was a pity. The strong ones of the past had created a peaceful time now and allowed them to live comfortably without any worries. With exorcists acting as guard dogs at the borders and facing bloodthirsty and cruel demons on a daily basis, they enjoyed an easy life in the cities. They were oblivious and unaware, and barely any of them had deep knowledge about the past of human-demon wars. They had forgotten about the cruelty of demons and their tyranny. They had forgotten the bloody sacrifice their ancestors had given. Destroying the corpse of your comrade, destroying the body of your friend, disintegrating the body of your loved ones. Did they think that exorcists enjoyed doing such acts? The modern generation of normal humans had forgotten that even exorcists had a heart and wanted to live with peace without risking their lives. Exorcists were also humans in the end. Some knew of this and respected that, but there were always those who didn't know any better and termed this act of body disintegration as cruel and inhuman. Inhuman. Calling the people who helped them maintain the concept of humanity inhuman was ridiculous. The elder's words resounded in the silent surroundings, making the children nod slowly while trembling a bit. They all felt a chill when the serious words fell into their ears. However, Oliver could still see unwillingness in the eyes of some kids, not wanting to accept the fact that they would not be able to handle a minor demon on their own. Even the elder spotted that, but did not say anything. Such children think we're too arrogant and would learn their lesson soon in their field. Anyways, that is that. I will now be taking you all to the forest. Bear in mind that you will be all observed by the elites of the clan. You must be on your best conduct in this event. If you perform well, an elder might consider taking you under their wing. Or it's also possible that you can directly serve under a main heir in the future based on your performance. Click. The elder clicked his fingers, producing a short sound. As the elder clicked his fingers, a sharp sound pierced the air, prompting every onlooker to crane their necks skyward. A cacophonous screech tore through the atmosphere, heralding the arrival of a monstrous presence. A colossal shadow eclipsed the gathering, casting a pall over the crowd as they beheld the fearsome sight above. High above, a massive demonic bird loomed, its wings spanning the heavens like a dark omen. Its feathers, as black as midnight, seemed to absorb the very light around them, imbuing the creature with an aura of dread. Crimson eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity, fixating on the mortals below with a hunger that chilled the soul. With each beat of its wings, the air thrummed with power, and the creature's malformed beak parted, unleashing a roar akin to a roaring inferno. The sound of a roaring fire escapes the creature's deformed nostrils, set within a curved nose. From its curved nose, deformed nostrils expelled plumes of smoke, adding to the aura of menace that surrounded the demonic avian. The creature descended with an ominous grace, its presence casting a long shadow over the land below. The elder said, looking at the fearful expressions, "This is my familiar, a demonic bird. It's from a species called ochre flash. I am sure that many of you have never heard of it. It's a powerful demonic being with strong control over the fire element. And today, it'll serve as our transport." With a cold voice, the elder directly climbed on top of the still bird and gazed below. Some of the strong-willed children did not delay and strode forward with tense steps. These children particularly included Nadia, the second brother, Oliver, and a few from vassal families. They did not ask for any help and climbed up the creature with a brave heart. The elder acknowledged them with a nod. He had not told them yet, but the test had already begun. Those smart enough should be able to tell this. The first and foremost thing was for them to overcome their fear of demonic presence. The malicious aspera induced fear in those with weaker hearts and minds. As the children from the proud clan, they must not be influenced by this at all, or else they would barely be able to restrain themselves in a forest filled with demonic presence and malicious aspera. Oliver assumed a seat in the middle, his heart beating wildly with every second. He was brave only because of the assurance that the ominous bird would not attack them. The malicious aspera was overwhelming and sent chills down his spine, not to mention the bloodthirsty eyes of this demonic creature. For him, someone used to a peaceful environment, this was a tough experience to say the very least. He thought with some astonishment that this bird was really feathery. Its back was quite cushiony too, and he felt comfortable. If he was not wrong, the Academy conducted familiar summoning as well. He'd make sure to get himself a wonderful familiar. The image of a fat white cat suddenly appeared in his mind. In the image, the cat was yawning and scratching its belly, looking really annoying. He shook his head and focused on the crowd on the ground. He looked down and saw the third sibling pair still standing below, not daring to move much. They were still stunned by the presence of the demon. He sneered. It would be a pity if they got left behind. He could tell the test must have already begun, given the nonchalant expression on the elder's face. The elder would have helped the children climb up by now had it not been for the test. This was also one of the reasons he quickly climbed up to avoid being left out. If this went on, he felt that half of the children present would get eliminated at this step alone, not even getting a chance to hunt. He looked down and also saw the kid who had brought his ancestor's sword shivering in his boots, and felt quite speechless. Just now, he was bragging about staining his ancestor's sword with the blood of demons, and now he was quivering in his pants. Look! The forest. After around 10 minutes of high-speed travel, they finally arrived at the site where the test was going to take place. The demonic bird landed gracefully on the ground near the forest entrance, letting the children climb down one by one. They immediately noticed many other elders nearby observing them. In the presence of so many elites, it was natural that all of them felt some pressure on their shoulders. If they could prove themselves and their strength through this hunting event, their future would be set on an easier path with more resources and influence. The elder who had been with the children so far looked at the others, and upon receiving the signal, he addressed the participants. All right, here are your sealing talismans. He handed each one of them a paper with some runes inscribed on it. Use them wisely. They are precious and will only work once. The sooner you use this, the sooner your hunt will be over. After making sure everyone was equipped with a talisman and their respective weapons, he continued. On my signal, all of you will enter the forest. As soon as you step foot inside, your test and the hunt will begin. Beware, the elites are watching, so don't try anything that will cause you trouble later. Yes, Elder. Go! The Elder signaled, and instantly all of the participants rushed into the green forest ahead of them. Oliver was also among them, and the first thing he did was separate himself from the other participating children. He knew that the closer he was to others, the more his chances of catching a good demon as his prey would decrease. Not only that, but he might even get attacked by the other candidates. Sure, the elder had said that it was against the rules to try to kill each other, but he did not say anything about mutual fights and injuries. Neither did he say anything about the scenario where one candidate might try to steal others' talismans. It was quite ambiguous, so he would rather not take the risk and be alone. With some random twists and turns, he had already gained quite a distance between himself and the other participants. Zipping his backpack, he retrieved his rapier out of it and held it in his left hand while he securely tied the bag on his back. First, I should do a warm-up. He decided to first get used to a demon and its abilities. He was not sure what demons he might encounter and what their abilities would be. But one thing he was sure of was that they were all weak. They were all weaker than a minor-level demon. Fighting a demon would also help him realize his current stage. How well could he handle the demons, and what was his current power level? It would also provide him a general idea about how far he was from reaching rank 1 on his own without Nadia's help. He could not help but sigh. Once he received her Aspera talent, he would not need to worry about such things and could have a pace of progress of his own too. Gripping the handle of the rapier tight, he strode forward with suppressed steps. He would need a place to stay as well, in case he was unable to hunt a strong demon quickly. And not to mention food. He could survive without food for a day, but water is a must thing. He didn't want to be distracted while fighting due to thirst or starvation. The demon sealing talisman was in his inner pocket secured. Rustle! Just as he was searching for a demon, his senses picked up a rustling sound from a distance. He walked slowly towards the bushes where the sound originated from, and his eyes caught a fast-paced shadow. The shadow was quick and rushed towards him. It was full of hostility and murderous intent. Clang! Oliver was sane and fast. He reacted in the last moment and used the rapier's long body to block the attack from the shadow. The sounds of flesh churning when being torn and pierced were sickening. He had no intention to attack the lower body of the demon. The armored scales on its body were tough and hard to break through. It might even damage his expensive rapier. So he was aiming for the skull only. Swish! Not wanting to give the demon too much time to recover and stabilize, he launched a series of continuous attacks, mimicking different styles of the rapier engraved into his memories from Nadia. Naturally, the demon was agitated as it realized the helplessness it was facing against Oliver. Instincts went into frenzy as the demon's eyes turned blood red, opting more aggression towards the enemy regardless of the weary state of the body. Oliver smiled. This was what he had expected when cornered. The mindless demons turn aggressive and attack nonetheless. As he dodged the sharp tail attacks that were aimed to slice apart his limbs, he started to notice more and more open areas that the demon was vulnerable at. Clang! The tail collided with the shiny body of the rapier as he twisted his body and slid towards the ferocious demon. Utilizing the demon's confused state, he pointed the rapier up and used considerable to force to pierce the skull of the demon just above him in a gruesome manner. Gurgle. Wheeze. The demon let out a low and painful moan as it took its final breath in this world as its body fell to the side. Thud! Oliver quickly got up and made some distance. Ah! He quickly put a hand over his mouth, preventing himself from puking in disgust. That was too disgusting. The smell, the unhygienic environment, the distorted insides of the demon, and the dark-colored blood. Suddenly, experiencing this torment was a bit much for his brain that was used to cleanliness and hygiene of comfort at his clan. It took him a moment to get himself mentally stable as he finally looked at the demon's corpse. He now had to think about how he should deal with it. Let me know if you'd like me to help with anything else. He narrowed his eyes as he closely observed the dead demon in detail. It was now bleeding a darker version of normal humans' red blood. It smelled pungent, just like sulfur, the smell of rotten eggs to be specific. He moved closer and carefully eyed the dull-looking scales on its back. I would like to have them, but I don't have the tools necessary for it to be extracted. He pondered with a thoughtful look on his face. He was sure that there were some places in the clan market that bought and sold demon parts for a good price. If he managed to gather some of the demon parts, he could later sell them and solve the money problem temporarily too. But unfortunately, he did not have any experience in butchering demons or extracting valuable parts. Neither did he have any tools for that purpose at the moment. His bag space was limited, and he didn't want to be restricted at the test entrance for carrying too much stuff. He sighed and looked ahead at the dense bushes. If he did not handle the corpse of this demon soon, then the blood and smell would attract other predators nearby, and that would turn into a huge problem for him too. It's a demon that is lower than a minor rank demon. It's weak and has not even formed a proper core. It's useless in all aspects apart from its body parts. He said to himself as he started to drag the corpse to the side. It's a demon that is lower than a minor rank demon. It's weak and has not even formed a proper core. It's useless in all aspects apart from its body parts. He said to himself as he started to drag the corpse to the side. As for the blood, To cover the blood, he used nearby materials such as dirt, leaves, and rocks. He would have preferred if there were water or fire available to completely erase, but for now, there was neither, so he could only mask the scent using fragrant flora nearby and reduce the visibility. Now onto the corpse. He dragged the corpse with him to some considerable distance from the scene. He could dig a shallow grave for the demon, but it was too much effort and a waste of energy. Since burying the demon was out of options, he used the heavy rock debris and branches and leaves to camouflage it and minimize the scent. Its claws shone in the dim light, but Oliver was unmoving and did not move, acting as an unbreakable fortress for the small demon, intending to show the difference in power. The demon pounced. Its claws were slashing at air with ferocity. Oliver stepped back, narrowly avoiding the deadly attacks, aggravating the demon with annoyance. With a swift thrust, he aimed at the demon's abdomen. Swish! His rapier sliced through the air like a viper striking forth. The demon twisted, narrowly avoiding the blow, but he had expected it. His movement was fluid as he kept attacking from all directions. As the demon lunged at him again, Oliver moved his body and bent, his body especially flexible after all the training. With a parry, he directed the demon's attack toward itself, leaving it off balance and highly vulnerable. Crunch! Screech! Seizing the golden chance, he struck as his rapier hit the mark with a satisfying crunch. The demon howled in pain as it hurriedly recoiled, its form flickering in the dim light before slowly disappearing into a cloud of noxious ashes. An indication of the demon's infernal lineage. With a small grin on his face, he looked at the pile of ashes. It was convenient that he would not have to clean up the corpse and blood for this demon. He made sure to deliberately annoy the demon before so that it would not try to escape and keep attacking him, and slowly used its own attacks to finish it off. Another battle won. The efforts he had put and the rewards from the system together were finally showing fruits. Handling demons of this level was easy for him. He felt more confident in fighting against a minor-level demon now. This demon's ashes are used in making alchemical creations and should sell for some money in the clan's market. But where do I keep them? He pondered as he looked at the small pile of ashes before him. Well, no choice. I should just carry it in my bag. He collected the ashes and wrapped them in big leaves, storing them in his bag afterward. He spent the next hour searching for a place to stay and rest. The forest was definitely big, and there were all sorts of natural spots and places to hide. He wanted a place closer to a water stream if possible, so that he would not need to travel just to collect water. But there was, of course, the risk involved in getting entangled with other participants in this. Water is an important resource, and there were bound to be people vying for it. They must be thinking the same as him. He had awakened a water-attributed Espera and could quench his thirst in dire need, but not casually. He had a very minimal amount of Espera compared to others, and using water-attributed techniques would consume a lot of it, thus tiring him. His main goal was to conserve as much energy as possible in order to be prepared for any unknown variables. He simply could not afford the luxury to use his Espera for the simple purpose of quenching his thirst whenever he wanted at the moment. Having some Espera reserves was necessary. Gurgle, gurgle. It was not long before his ears caught the sound of flowing water. He walked towards the sound's direction, and with some rustling with the bushes, he soon found himself face to face with a flowing water stream. The water was clean and fresh. He neared the edge and drank a mouthful of fresh water. Feeling refreshed from the earlier bloodshed, he tried to locate a nearby shelter for him to spend the time. But in the end, he managed to finish it off. The last demon could have been a good catch, and had he used the talisman to seal the demon inside, he could have been worry-free. But his mind was not ready to accept this demon. He believed that he could definitely do better than this. And not to mention, that tingling sensation of being watched had come once again. Earlier at the water stream, he felt it was his delusion, and he believed so, since the sensation disappeared when he left the water stream to hunt deeper into the forest. But now, suddenly, it was back. This time, he did not think that it was due to the fact that he was on edge due to hunting demons. Someone was definitely watching him, and that someone was close. Without delaying, He activated cosmic gaze and scanned the surroundings once more. This time, he made sure to be discreet about it and not let the watcher know that he was searching for them. He did not want to alert the observer or observers that he had felt their gazes on his back. They were already being quite stealthy with their gazes, and had it not been for him becoming stronger in the past couple of weeks, he might have completely ignored it or missed it. But now, that was not the case. He pretended to act naturally and started to handle the corpse, while occasionally looking around to see if there were any demons nearby, while instead he was looking for the observers. And he finally saw it. Ah! His lips suddenly curled up into a sinister grin. They are finally here. They are finally here. He mused to himself, as his smile couldn't be any broader at the moment. He quickly hid his facial expression, not wanting to let the observers know his state of mind or expressions. I have been waiting for a long time for this moment. He craned his neck as he slowly got up from his squatting position. He stretched his arms upwards and performed a basic set of exercises. His posture looked carefree and fearless, as if he were not even concerned about the vicious demons in the vicinity. A careless and improper attitude for an aspiring exorcist. "Did you see that?" a boy asked his partner. The other party, however, remained silent. "I stopped you earlier from engaging in a fight. Now do you think that I did the right thing?" he once again asked, his tone laced with a hint of sarcasm and anger. "Aye!" The other party wanted to say something, but stopped. "Rustle!" The winds blew lightly as the sun rays fell on the duo, revealing their features and identities at the same time. It was the third brother and third sister, the ones who had beaten Oliver last time. Ever since they had entered the forest, Shane had been constantly bothered by his sister about him stopping her earlier in front of so many people. She felt she had been insulted and wanted revenge. But he knew better. He was far more rational than her and knew how to hold their image in front of others. She was too impulsive in his opinion. However, they once again lost him as he suddenly sped up deeper inside the forest. Due to their great distance from him and the obstruction from the long water stream, they once again had lost him. His sister was excited that Oliver was still functioning and well. She was too enthusiastic to beat him. He also had a pang of excitement in his heart when he saw Oliver. His hands had been itching for a long time. While he had not shown his discomfort earlier, he was also quite pissed off at Oliver for daring to disrespect them like that. They quickly followed the stream and went to the other side of the water, where Oliver was some time ago. Shane tried to look for traces he might have left behind while going deep into the forest, but was unpleasantly surprised when he found nothing behind. How could Oliver be so vigilant to not leave any traces behind? He was not an expert, should not have the knowledge of erasing traces, nor did he train in stealth techniques. They searched thoroughly, and in the end, his sister did start to find minor indications that he might have left behind. She was a genius when it came to using Aspera for stealth techniques. No, they were sure that these traces could only have been from him. Sure enough, he was feeling weird for nothing. It must be due to the natural terrain of the forest and their inexperience that they did not manage to find much traces. After an hour or so, they finally found him. But the scene they came across was unexpected and stunning. He was standing by a demon's corpse. And it was not a weak demon either. The corpse was torn apart as if sliced by a rapier or a blade. Even they would have had some difficulty subduing that demon, given its tiny frame and fast speed. Shane's eyes shone as he looked at the corpse. It was worth it if he could seal the demon in his talisman. It was a good demon that could guarantee a spot for him in the top rankings. But one thing he was unable to understand. What was this guy Oliver doing next to the corpse? It couldn't be that he hunted that demon? No, it was impossible. He refused to believe as such. He still remained cautious. He saw him squatting by the demon inspecting the corpse, perhaps. His heart stirred as he felt this demon was going to be sealed by Oliver's talisman and not by his. There he is. Shane, this time, no one can stop me from breaking him. Do you have anything to say? The voice of his twin sister brought him back to reality as he glanced at Oliver with some wariness. Is this really going to be fine? Why do I feel so uneasy? Shane shivered slightly. He felt as if he was being stared at by the entire sky at the moment. His back was covered in chills. Shane? His sister tugged at him as she saw him dazed, wanting to hurry and teach Oliver a lesson he would never forget. But for some reason, her calm brother was acting weird for a while. I am feeling nervous? Of what? Of this weakling? Shane gritted his teeth. Why was he being like this? Was he a coward? No. He belonged to one of the greatest exorcist clans in the entire world. His blood was divine, his arts were superior, and he was stronger than any of his peers. How could he be nervous of facing a pathetic bug they had crushed not long ago? Whether it was now or before, a bug was a bug. It cannot compare to someone like them. They were superior in every way imaginable. It was a typical trait that was found in all the children of the Mystic Purge clan: arrogance and pride. They did not like to be looked down upon by others no matter what. They would be easily triggered by the tiniest of details. They would use strength to establish dominance in all scenarios. Shane looked at Oliver's back with keen eyes. There was still a hint of caution in his eyes, but that was soon clouded by the anger and greed. He looked at his sister and finally said, "All right, we will do as you say." The girl's tender face broke into a wide smirk as she saw her brother agree finally. Each illusion can be shaped into its own form as per the user's will and movements, confusing the enemies with a multitude of deceptive moves. It's so effective that it's no longer a deception, but a straight lie. Thus the name 12 Lies. It overwhelms the enemies with a barrage of illusions, with heightened versatility as it can deceive multiple opponents simultaneously. It has increased potency too, since each illusion has the potential to strike independently, making it way more lethal. Ha ha! What a great timing! I just have the perfect targets to practice this on. His eyes narrowed as he felt the two sneaky figures close up to him. They were now just behind him. He turned around and was now face to face against the two siblings. Memories of the past where they had brutally beaten him appeared, making his blood boil slowly. "You're here?" He looked at the two and said with a smile. Shane, who looked at his unsurprised and calm expression, had a burst of ominous feeling in his heart once again. Why is he so calm? Was he expecting us? Was he aware of our presence? That can't be. His mind suddenly thought of countless possibilities. But just as he was thinking about them, his impulsive sister spoke up. "Oh, look who we have here. It's the little maggot who dared to be rebellious against his elder siblings earlier," she said sarcastically. "Where are your manners? How about kneeling down and kowtowing to us for your rude behavior from earlier? Come on, show your respect," she said as waves of aspera escaped from her body, targeting Oliver to make him feel a dose of her power. She was expecting him to be thrown back by this. He, a being with minuscule aspera, would not be able to contend against her with abundant aspera. However, contrary to her arrogant expectations, the reality was far different. Oliver snorted and stood unmoving as he let the aspera waves hit him. His body was tough, and his strength level was 4, not something that could be thrown back with this girl's little aspera. Oliver stood unshakable, his gaze condescending as he looked at the puzzled and surprised face of the girl. "Respect? Do you deserve it?" "Respect? Do you deserve it?" His words directly made her choke on her next words. She was really infuriated with him and threatened. "So it's like this. Then it's our duty to instill manners into your thick brain, isn't it? Are you capable enough to do that? I will allow you to lick my feet if you beg right now." Oliver directly provoked her. The one thing he was good at was provoking others. With an arrogant laugh, he looked at her as if he was looking at an insect. Sure enough, his sharp words had an effect as multiple veins popped on her forehead. Since her birth till now, she had never been looked down upon by anyone, nor had anyone ever dared to speak to her in this manner. Such trash talk was really getting to her. This guy seemed to have forgotten the beating they had given him some time ago. "Good, good," she roared. She could not hold it any longer and lunged at him, her fingers curling into a fist. She was going to use her strength to subdue him now. Despite her tender age and weak frame, the presence of abundant aspera in her body automatically enhanced her powers. So her punch carried a strong force behind it, enough to hospitalize a normal adult male for several months. She really intended to cripple Oliver this time for good. What about the elder's warnings before the hunt? That she did not care about too much, since all the warnings that the elder had given were about not killing each other in the demon hunt. There were no rules that stated no mutual fights could occur between two or more participants. There was also no guarantee that they couldn't cripple each other either, although it was heavily frowned upon by the community. But who was she? She was one of the main heirs of the clan. He intended to cripple her back. A burst of anger exploded in her heart when she realized this. She refused to be pushed back like this. Their movements became a blur as they exchanged blows, each refusing to yield an inch. Oliver's strength was undeniable, but the third sister's Aspera gave her speed and agility beyond that of a normal fighter. Oliver, for the first time, realized the usefulness of Aspera. He, who had superior strength than her in every aspect, was being equally matched by her as she implied Aspera into her moves. This was an eye-opener for him. It made him realize the difference between the physical exorcist and an exorcist with Aspera. However, Oliver's thirst for revenge began to tip scales in his favor. He slowly started to anticipate her moves, dodging her strikes and landing his own with increasing accuracy. He intentionally hit her spots where she was the least guarded and slowly slowed her down. Ah! She cried out in severe pain, feeling her bones crack under the intense pressure. It was very painful. With every punch, Oliver felt the satisfaction of gaining ground against his opponent. It was an addicting feeling as he felt his punches connect to her body. The scene of her getting bruised by each of his punches overlapped with his memory of being beaten half to death. Oliver aimed for a strong attack at her, intending to finish her off with it. Bang! Just as victory seemed within reach, a new presence entered the fray. Shane, the third brother, stepped in between the two with a menacing grin. Oliver's expression crumbled slightly as he realized he was outnumbered once again. He was so into fighting her that he even forgot about him for a second. It was almost night by now, as the moon had started to appear in the sky. Oliver quickly stepped back and made some distance between them to avoid a surprise attack. He could feel the strength of Shane's hand just a moment ago when he had interfered. He was not weak, neither did he lack aspera nor physical power. Oliver relaxed his stance and unzipped his bag. He took out his rapier. This was going to get bloody. Shane cautiously looked at Oliver drawing out his rapier. He couldn't help but glance at his twin sister lying in his arms, her body twitching in severe pain. There were multiple red and blue bruises at different body parts on her. He didn't know how many of her bones must have been broken by this guy. He was too ruthless. He took a deep breath as he realized this. Had he not interfered in time and stopped Oliver's last attack, it would have definitely crippled his sister. This guy was aiming to achieve that. He wanted to counter back by crippling her for life. He glanced at Oliver and saw him looking back at him with a keen gaze. There was no way he was going to let them leave now. Shane could not help but feel a little regretful. Earlier, when he had the ominous intuition, he should have trusted himself more and not engaged with this guy at all. He knew at a glance now that he was an anomaly. How could he get so strong in just a span of a few months? There was something abnormal going behind the scenes that they were not aware of. It seemed that they had messed with the wrong person. Sure enough, the blood of Mystic Purge clan could never produce trash. He was a fool to believe that there was trash among their siblings. And that too, the twin sibling of Nydia, the monster among monsters. Shane was not an easy guy. He did a swift counter and slashed at Oliver's exposed flank, drawing blood with a deep gush across his side. Oliver winced in pain but did not back down. Using his superior strength instead, he pushed forward and launched multiple strikes and feints. Shane saw this and tried dodging, but his speed was not fast enough, as his body suffered multiple small cuts simultaneously. You little! He couldn't help but grit his teeth as he sent a wave of aspera toward Oliver, pushing him backward forcefully. He panted slightly as he looked at the similarly panting Oliver in the distance. He couldn't help but let out a laugh as he wiped sweat off his forehead. I never expected to be pushed back like this today. Say, how about forgetting this ever happened? I am willing to let this matter rest. I will also let my sister not interfere with you in the future, he offered in a raised voice. If you will let me puncture your limbs with my rapier right now and apologize while kowtowing, then I might consider letting you two leave. Oliver sneered and replied, as he clutched the rapier in one hand while his other hand slowly reached for his backpack and drew out the axe he had brought along with him. Shane frowned when he heard this. Naturally, he was not willing to allow someone to puncture him. His gaze turned weird when he saw Oliver drawing out an axe in the middle of their fight. He was a bit confused at the moment. An axe? He couldn't comprehend why Oliver, a person who had been using a rapier, a light weapon, would suddenly use an axe, a heavy and cumbersome weapon. Wasn't this equivalent to putting oneself at a disadvantage? He felt that Oliver was not simple and must have had a plan in mind. He was not going to give Oliver any time to adjust as he suddenly jumped forward, his blade aiming for Oliver's arm, holding the axe. Oliver narrowed his eyes as he couldn't help but feel that Shane was indeed quick-witted and smart. He saw an unknown variable and immediately acted to remove the variable as fast as he could. Indeed, he had brought out an axe, a weapon that was the complete opposite of a rapier in all aspects. A rapier had a long reach, while the axe had a short reach. A rapier had a long range, while the axe had a short reach. A rapier was light while an axe was heavy. It was in complete contrast. His choice of weapons was very weird, but at the same time, his style of handling and the way he was holding the two weapons made a beautiful scene at the moment for any onlooker there. The combination of grace and barbarism, each complementing the other. Neither side trying to diminish the other's presence, but instead glorifying their user. But why would he choose an axe right now? It was simple. An axe, while it typically had shorter reach as compared to a sword or rapier, he could use this to his advantage whenever his rapier clashed with Shane's blade. While an axe was heavy and cumbersome, it serves as a great defense. If he used it properly, he could use the broad head of the axe to deflect or block Shane's strikes. Unlike a sword or rapier, which typically had a single edge for cutting or thrusting, an axe has both a cutting edge and a blunt side. He could alternate between slashing and bludgeoning alternatively. A good means to catch Shane off balance and unable to predict his next move. Despite an axe's size, it could surprisingly work quickly in the hands of someone skilled. Oliver realized this while training with it. Click! Shane had made the first move. His blade came cutting through the air with a silken sound. Oliver was not easy, as he immediately protected his side with a parry from his rapier. Clang! Clang! The clash of metal reverberated through the silent darkness of the night. He was struggling to keep up as he strained his muscles with the effort of parrying blow after blow. Shane took a deep breath as he steadied himself. A large ball of brown-colored aspera gathered in front of him as he launched it repeatedly towards Oliver. This move consumed a lot of aspera, and he was still in the process of perfecting it. But he knew that if he did not use it, then he might get completely cornered by Oliver. And in the next moment, he saw the results of this attack as well. Oliver dodged 1, 2, but the continuous barrage got to him as he was directly thrown back, crashing to a tree. Cough. Cough. He coughed up blood as he quickly placed a hand on his chest to steady himself, adjusting his breathing to minimize the pain from the impact. Shane let out a cruel smirk as he did not dare to give Oliver even a moment's worth of rest and directly slashed at him with his blade. Oliver slid through the patch of grass nearby, dodging Shane's slash in a narrow way. Fucking bastard! Why do you keep dodging? Just die! Shane's rational face crumbled as it was replaced by a livid expression. He could not tolerate it anymore. He was not able to land a proper slash at Oliver. His usual calm look could not keep up any longer. Oliver maintained a calm expression and a calm mind. He felt good to see such an expression on his enemy's face. It made him satisfied. Shane just looked like an ugly moment right now. If he was given a mirror, he might even faint looking at himself. However, he did not delay and got into stance once again. He was not going to give Shane any more opportunities to use aspera like before. He attacked once again. Shane moved his blade from one angle to another. Just when it seemed like Shane had the upper hand, Oliver finally saw his opportunity. Crunch! With a swift feint, he drew Shane's attention away from his axe, tossing it into the air before catching it mid-air by the handle, and then brought it down with all his might, the blade biting into Shane's shoulder with a sickening thud. Shane cried out in pain, staggering back as blood welled in massive amounts from the wound. He could even see something white beneath it. Was that his tissues or bones? He did not know, but it pained very bad. Oliver maintained a neutral look as the moonlight reflected back from his rapier. Pressing to his advantage, his rapier darted forward with insane speed. With a final thrust, he pierced through Shane's abdomen, the tip of his rapier finding its mark with lethal accuracy. Go! Shane directly spat blood onto the ground as his eyes felt the world tremble. He bit his lips to prevent losing consciousness as he backed down. You forced me to use this. Shane spoke in a hoarse voice as blood kept spilling from his body. His eyes were filled with killing intent when he looked at Oliver's expressionless face. It reminded him of Nadia's face. They resembled each other too much for his discomfort. Oliver became alert when he saw him doing some strange movements. He activated Cosmic Void Gaze and saw Espera rapidly gathering around Shane rapidly and quickly realized that he was about to perform a secret art. Just die, you bastard! Shane mumbled as his eyes turned ignited into craziness and madness. He no longer cared about the rules. He just wanted to kill Oliver now. So be it. Oliver also realized that he was not in a state to simply dodge or counter without revealing any of his cards. Shane placed the blade straight in front of his chest as he closed his eyes. Trip of the Seven Serpents. He spoke aloud, his voice echoing in the forest. Oliver did not delay and got into a stance of his own in front of Shane's eyes. He threw the axe to the side as he stretched the hand holding the rapier forward in a straight line pointing towards Shane. Sovereign strike of infinite freedom. It all happened in a split second as both parties launched their own secret attacks. Boom! Boom! An expression of extreme hatred was etched on her face. But more importantly, the thing he noticed was that her injuries, although still there, seemed to be duller than before. He saw as she curled her fingers and punched at his face. She spat. I don't like the look in your eyes, this defiant look. How vexing. One punch after another as she vented out her anger. How did you change so much? How did you gain such strength? Tell me! She used an Espera-infused punch and sent him flying forward. Ah! Oliver groaned in pain. His mind and vision were getting dizzy. He had already realized that this girl had brought a healing potion along with her. It was no surprise. She was one of the main heirs of the clan. She was showered with resources and should have a few potions. He quickly started to concentrate and calm himself. The pain was searing, but fortunately, his vitals were safe for now. She did not look at Oliver right away, and instead went up to her brother first. Shane? She whispered as she saw his bad state. A frown slowly made its way on her forehead. She was the one who knew him the most. She knew that Shane was very strong, stronger than the second brother, and this was the reason why she often listened to him. Seeing him in such a critical state made her feel mad. I never expected that you would be beaten to such an extent by him. You disappoint me. She scowled in a colder tone as her eyes had a look of disappointment in them. She did not like how he was also defeated by Oliver. That's right, she was not mad because Oliver had beaten her brother to such a state, but because Shane was defeated so badly by him. It made her lose her respect for him. She knew that even she was defeated by that Oliver, but it was not this bad. He was almost on death's bed at the moment. Shh. She clicked her tongue in annoyance and took out another healing potion from her pocket. It was a tube of liquid. Cupping his mouth in her hands, she slowly poured its contents into his panting mouth. Shane almost got choked by the sudden influx of warm liquid and tried to move away his head, but was unable to. She saw this and did not care at all. It was his fault for being in this state. Should have been stronger. Yes. This was how the true mindset of Mystic Purge Clan's little siblings worked. They did not harbor emotional attachment to one another, but a sense of respect for the other's strength, the benefits they could give them, and their use. It was just that since they were always born in pairs of twins, that they stuck together with their twin more, but it was not a necessity. Although I doubt that it will have much effect on you given your current state, but at least it will save you from dying quickly. Read latest chapters at novelhall.com. Only, she said in a flat tone as she slowly put his head down on the ground, allowing him to rest slowly as his breathing slowly started to stabilize. Her gaze turned towards Oliver, who had now also stood back up. His chest was hurting a lot, but he was still somehow managing. Heh? He could not help but let out a short laugh, even in this situation. He did not know if he had a screw loose or not, but in tense situations or scary situations, he would subconsciously smile or laugh. Just like how his mind cracked up when he suddenly bid in the auction that time for absolutely no reason. And now, looking at him smirking and laughing as if making fun of her, she could not help but feel speechless. Was this guy really sane? He knew his wounds and his disadvantage against her, but was still provoking her. She even felt tired for getting angry anymore. She just wanted revenge now, for him daring to try and cripple her. A group of elders and elites were definitely watching each participant, monitoring everything. They would make sure to interfere if the life of a participant was threatened. One might wonder what the reason was that they had not interfered in Shane's and Oliver's previous fight so far. It was simple, because Oliver had not intended to kill Shane in the first place, and the wounds that he gave to him were although serious, but almost all of them were intended to cripple him rather than to kill him. Unlike Shane, Oliver took the big picture in his mind. He was obviously going to be severely punished by the clan if he dared to kill someone. Not to mention, he had no backing in the clan, so he would be at more disadvantage compared to the third pair of siblings with their own factions behind them. Not only that, the elders of the clan were extremely powerful. They could tell if Shane's life was in danger or not. If they had not interfered, then that meant he was not going to die anytime soon. As for getting crippled, while it was frowned upon, it was not against the rules of the hunt. If Shane did get crippled by Oliver, then he could only blame himself for being a weakling. They were not going to spoon-feed him here. The clan had strict rules that even they were not allowed to bypass. They were very indifferent to such things. Only strength and potential mattered in their eyes. Then again, wouldn't Shane's future and potential be ruined if he got crippled? As for that, the elders shared a similar thought. They would just feed him an elixir to help him recover back later. While indeed an elixir was an epic rank item that was hard to come by, given the clan's rich history of centuries and the excellent alchemists working endlessly, they often produced a batch of elixirs every few years. And using one on a main heir was not a waste of resources. Not only would he experience the feeling of fighting a near-death battle without actually dying, but also realize not to be too arrogant. Oliver felt uncomfortable showing his cards like this, but since the situation demanded so, he cannot back down. He did not use the cosmic void gaze in case the elders behind the second brother would quickly find the similarities and suspect him. At that time, he would definitely be asked about his sources of power and all sorts of questions, which he would rather not answer at all. Not only that, but he also felt that using cosmic void gaze would be too easy for them. It would be less painful for them if he directly attacked their minds and was done with it. He did not want to give them the same treatment he had given the second brother. They were the ones who had actually beaten him, not the second brother, and thus they deserved an equal amount of punishment from his hands, which had been itching for a while. Using cosmic void gaze would be less painful for them. Beating them with his own hands was far more satisfying, given the treatment they had given him the last time. Clang! Another clash of her sword against his axe. She could not help but grit her teeth when she saw how tenacious he was, even after being pierced by her sword. It was as if he was a wall she could not breach, no matter what she did. He was strong. Her eyes widened with each failed attempt, a new sense of uneasiness gripping her heart with every move he deflected or dodged. He was too crazy. Even with such serious injuries, he was able to fight her. How much stamina and strength did he have? Oliver realized that level 4 strength was no joke. Not only did he have excellent stamina and vitality, but also immense physical power even in this wounded state. Fucking, he grunted as she slashed at his waist. making him retreat. Just as she rushed at him with a crazed look in her eyes, he clutched the handle of the axe and threw it straight at her face. She gasped at the sight of the flying axe, immediately rolling to the side to avoid the dangerous object. Did this guy want to kill her? Boom! Everything went white for her in the next instant. The sheer power of the eternal 12 Lies palm obliterated her, leaving nothing but deafening silence in its wake. Huff, huff. Oliver lay on the forest floor, his situation critical. His right hand was twisted backwards, his chest leaking blood, his abdomen and legs covered in sword slashes. His forehead was smeared with blood. Cough. He coughed out more blood, weakly trying to look around but unable to. He was completely exhausted, without even an ounce of stamina or power to move. He looked at the blood staining both his body and clothes. He did not know if this blood belonged to him or was from the siblings. Siblings? What happened to them? He painfully craned his neck and spotted the third sister lying some distance away. Her eyes were open wide, completely whitened, foam filling her mouth. Her body twitched from time to time as if deeply traumatized by something. He did not know what illusion she saw when he attacked her, but he knew it was terrifying. He could not make out the details while lying down. He rested on that spot for the next 20 minutes, unable to move an inch. He felt the cool breeze rustling the leaves, refreshing him for some reason. The thick, bloody scent in the air made him anxious. It wouldn't be long before demons were attracted to their location. He had yet to capture a demon. It would be a great loss if he couldn't hunt even a single demon and bring it back. He wanted the rewards. Ugh! He groaned in pain as he slowly but steadily crawled to the third sister's body. He had seen her bring out healing potions before and felt there might be more in her pocket. Somehow he managed to reach her, shuffling through her pocket until his hand felt something hard inside. Somehow, he managed to reach close to her and shuffled through her pocket before his hand felt something hard inside. It was a glass vial, a tube. He exerted some force and drew it out. It was indeed a healing potion. While not as miraculous as an elixir, it was quite effective for recovery and healing. He felt it was a necessary item for him. If he let the blood leak any longer, he might just die from blood loss. At least, his life would not be in any immediate danger. He quickly opened the cap and drank the potion, gulping it down quickly. The effect was instant as he felt his strength returning slowly. A warm feeling spread over the wounds on his body, and a comforting sensation washed over him. Ha! He exhaled in relief and lay down for another 5 minutes before slowly standing up. The scene before him was truly destructive. The trees were broken, branches and blood were scattered all around, and the moonlight reflected off the red blood, giving the scene a reddish shine. He looked around and saw his axe was nowhere to be seen in the dark. Even the sword in the third sister's hand was damaged by the previous impact. He glanced towards Shane, and his blade was in the same condition. He shook his head and reached for his bag, intending to loot them. Shuffling through the third sister's pocket, he retrieved her talisman and saw that one mark was missing from the inscribed runes on it when they received it. This meant that a demon was currently sealed inside the talisman. Oliver suddenly felt a weird sensation in his body upon being probed by the elder. However, he did not resist. He knew the elder was curious about his secrets and the strength he displayed. The elder probably wanted to find out if they had missed something during his birth, or if he was being controlled by a demonic being. Of course, since that was not the case, and it was just his natural physical powers, the elder was unable to find anything out of the ordinary, no matter how much he probed again and again. A look passed through the elder's serene and aged eyes, carrying the wisdom of the past. He slowly descended from the sky and, instead of landing near the siblings, he landed in front of Oliver. Oliver couldn't help but feel that the elder was quite graceful and elegant. Was it due to his age that his posture and moves felt refined, or was it just his lack of taste and power? In fact, Oliver was not wrong. The elder before him had persisted in the Mystic Purge clan for centuries and could be counted among the strongest beings in the entire world. He was a sage that many exorcists aspired to even get a glance of, to receive words of guidance from, an experienced teacher and a veteran exorcist. The elder had countless achievements associated with his name, like the other elders. This was the case for all of the top 5 clans and their elites. Oliver felt an invisible pressure on his shoulders. No, it was not due to the elder releasing his power onto him, but just a natural pressure from such a being who had fought and slaughtered countless demons over the years. The elder did not say anything for a moment and just stared at the youth in front of him. Oliver, the isolated child, the child born without any talent, the child who was denied the clan's name publicly, the only main heir mocked openly by the crowd, the child with all sorts of rumors associated with his lack of talent. The child who was said to have had his talent devoured by his twin during birth, the child of misfortune and shame. But what they all witnessed just now was definitely not something a child without any talent could achieve. Not only did he defeat one, but 2 of the most talented kids from the main family lineage, but he also managed to crush them one-sidedly. Was he supposed to believe that he was still an untalented bastard? How could he, after what he just saw? The elder finally spoke in a serene tone. "You are really ruthless, even to your own blood." It was not an insult, nor was it a compliment. It was just a statement to Oliver's ears. He was unable to discern the elder's intentions from his tone or words. "So what?" Oliver muttered. His tone was neither rude nor provocative. He directly asked the elder what he wanted to say. For a moment, the forest was silent. The only sound was the faint rustling of leaves. Oliver felt the weight of the elder's gaze, as if he was being seen for the first time. The elder looked at the young face, and those eyes, he felt something mysterious and deep within them, but could not exactly tell what. This surprised him. It was the first time he couldn't comprehend something. He said, "Nothing." "How do you feel?" Oliver frowned, feeling that the elder was being weird. If he wanted to say something, he should just spit it out. What was the point of moving around in circles? "What? Are you here to avenge them?" Oliver asked, his tone growing colder. If that was the case, it would be very hard to leave unscathed from here. His mind raced through possible escape routes, but he knew none would be fast enough if the elder decided to act. "No, not at all. I am not here to interfere." Contrary to his expectations, the elder simply shook his head and denied the notion. Oliver saw him glancing at the healing vial and the talisman he had looted earlier. "Want them back?" He smirked and asked playfully. He knew the elder was not allowed to interfere in the hunt and obstruct other participants. He was just testing the elder's limits now. "Ugh, I am hungry." His stomach rumbled. The previous fight had drained him too much. He needed to eat something urgently, or it would be difficult to fight and concentrate. He did not find anything to eat in their belongings, so he was in a bind. He could try to eat a demon, but there was a chance he would get poisoned since their flesh and blood were toxic to humans. He sighed. There was not much choice. He could only try to find some fruits in the forest. In the end, he mustered up his last bit of power and used cosmic void gaze to find some fruits that he ate quickly. It was better than nothing, at least. The rest of the night, he spent resting in the den. He made sure to properly cover the den beforehand to avoid getting attacked by a demon. The early morning light filtered through the trees, casting a peaceful glow over his hidden den. He woke up early in the morning, mostly recovered. His wounds had healed to a great extent. "Whoa, my body feels as good as new," he exclaimed excitedly as he did arm stretches. Although his body was still sore, he was no longer exhausted or seriously wounded. After that, he went out and searched for a suitable demonic presence around him. He had the talisman of the third sister with him, but he didn't know which demon was inside. If it was something weak, he would rank lower. He didn't want to bet on this. It was a risky bet after all. He saw a few demons, but they were all handled quickly. Not much effort. He had time until the afternoon before the demon hunt event ended, so he needed to get a demon before the deadline. Now that the elders had seen his strength, it was not mandatory for him to keep hiding it. If he did, he would only turn out more suspicious instead. He might as well get something out of it. Oliver craned his neck as he sensed someone nearby. He had been continuously hunting demons for 2 hours, but so far he was not able to find a good demon. He felt the forest was too easy. At least to him. What he didn't know was that if the other children heard him, they would not hesitate to beat him black and blue for saying something so outrageous. They had been struggling to fight these bloodthirsty creatures. Demons were tough opponents for them, and they were the same age as Oliver, too. Russell. Suddenly, he heard something as he neared the water stream. The sound wasn't close by, but his keen ears picked it up. He felt time was running out, and he had yet to hunt something good. He could almost feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins. As he neared the sounds, he could somehow make out the sounds. It was as if someone was fighting. He decided to follow the sound and move toward its direction. It took him a few minutes to cover the distance and reach the exact location. He saw an unexpected scene. It was Nadia, and she was engaged in combat with two demons alone. Sensing the feeling of dread, Oliver quickly realized these demons were the real deal. Minor-level demons. He immediately remembered the elder's words. He looked towards her, still some distance away, hiding in the bushes. He doubted she sensed him, especially while fighting two minor-level demons at once. Screech! Nadia dodged the tail attack by a narrow margin. The demons in front of her were ferocious and really wanted to kill her. It was the first time she experienced such killing intent. It made her realize many things. Demons were cruel and would not hesitate to tear you apart. They were clever and liked to play tricks. Never trust them. Kill them mercilessly whenever the opportunity presents itself. She didn't want to ruin this situation by killing the two demons. If a living demon was sealed, she might be recognized more since it was harder to seal a live demon than a dead one. She had to weaken them to the point where they couldn't resist and then use her talisman to seal them. But she found it hard to do. She wondered which demon she should kill. Not to mention, the thunder was annoying to deal with. It was agile and numbing, slowing her speed whenever she took a direct hit. Every attack she dodged took a toll on her energy. I can't keep this up forever, she thought, her frustration mounting. Sweat dripped down her forehead, stinging her eyes. This demon was tougher than all the weaker demons she had killed so far. She coldly snorted and sent a wave of espera towards the demon, pushing it back. She wanted to control everything without using any secret techniques or too much espera. She was superior to these demons. Minor-level demons were nothing to her. But even as she reassured herself, doubt crept in. Am I really strong enough? The thought was fleeting, but it stung. The pressure of living up to her mother's expectations weighed heavily on her. She had to prove this to her mother. She was watching her. She had to show that even without using precious clan techniques, she could deal with these minor threats on her own. If she did that, then perhaps her mother would praise her. Russell. Russell. She suddenly heard some movement behind her and sensed a human presence. Her expression turned a little ugly. It was already tough dealing with two demons, but now someone else was coming. If that person turned out to be hostile, she might be in serious trouble. She was confident, but not overconfident. Facing three enemies at once would be very difficult. Her eyes darted around, searching for the source of the sound. Russell. She warily looked in the direction of the sound and saw someone familiar. You again, she exclaimed, unable to hide her surprise. It seemed like this guy was always around, no matter where she went. No matter how hard she tried to avoid him, fate seemed to push them together. Yet, for some inexplicable reason, a strange familial feeling surged in her heart whenever she saw him. She couldn't quite figure out why. Hey? Oliver waved. The demon's attention was quickly drawn to the new prey that had entered the scene. Their eyes gleamed with ferocity as they moved slowly yet cautiously, sizing him up. Here to help, he shouted, retrieving the last weapon he had on him, a pair of daggers. He hadn't used them before because he lacked control over them, but with his other weapons out of commission, he had no choice but to resort to them. Despite not being needed here, the presence of two minor-rank demons spurred him to join the fight. Yo, demons, come at me! He yelled, causing the two demons to flinch and then turn even more aggressive. Growl. One demon, with muscular arms and a tail, charged at him with angry eyes and a salivating mouth. Oliver remained calm. Instead of dodging, he waited for the demon to get closer. As it neared, he pressed down on the ground beneath his feet with force, propelling himself into the air. His body formed an arc as he threw one of his daggers straight at the demon's eye. Roar! The demon wailed in agony and pain as the sharp metal lodged itself in its eye. Oliver landed gracefully behind the demon and, taking advantage of its disoriented state, rushed forward to stab its back with his other dagger. But the dagger couldn't penetrate the demon's tough skin. He silently marveled at the demon's tough hide, realizing it could fetch a high price. She had managed to seal a live demon. Good work, Oliver congratulated her from afar. She looked at him with a serene expression. She hadn't expected to meet him here, let alone see him draw a demon towards himself. Did he think she needed help? The thought made her a bit pissed off. She was not weak. She felt a twinge of anxiety. Surely he didn't think she was weak, right? It wasn't that she couldn't handle the two demons on her own. She was simply adamant about capturing and sealing the demon alive by weakening it. It was nothing more than that. She worried Oliver might think she was weak and had intervened to help her. But she was more powerful than he might realize. In fact, she had strategically chosen to weaken the demon before sealing it, ensuring a successful capture. She wasn't struggling. She was being methodical and precise. Still, the idea that Oliver might see her as incapable gnawed at her pride. She wanted to prove herself, to show that she could handle whatever came her way without anyone's help. Her mother, Oliver, oblivious to her internal struggle, approached her. "You did great out there," he said with a smile. She calmly looked at him without any fluctuations in her expression, trying to mask her irritation. "I had it under control." "I know you did," he responded. His tone was calm. "But it never hurts to have a backup, right?" She nodded, but the words didn't quite alleviate her frustration. She didn't need a backup. She needed to prove her strength. As they prepared to leave, the memory of the fight lingered in her mind. The adrenaline, the rush of combat, and the satisfaction of sealing a demon were still fresh. Yet, amidst all that, the shadow of doubt persisted. How did he become this strong? And what was that? The demon. She silently glanced at Oliver's back. She was more powerful than him. She really did not want him to think of her as someone weak. She had once cried in front of him, too. That was the most embarrassing moment in her entire life. She still couldn't get over it. If Oliver actually thought that she was just a crybaby, she had to show him her powers. Somewhere in the corner of her mind, she didn't want to lose the respect of her twin. She had never cared about such things before. But for some reason, she did not want this now, especially not with him. But at the same time, she felt angry at herself. Why did she have to explain anything to him? She was not liable to give anyone any explanation about her powers except her mother. Ugh! She felt a burst of frustration in her mind, so she couldn't help but glare at him. How could she know that at that moment, Oliver was just stunned at how ruthless a child could be? He had firsthand witnessed the ruthlessness of a future powerhouse today. He felt that she was so strong to handle two demons alone. Even if he had not helped, she might have subdued them on her own sooner or later, especially if she had used those powerful secret techniques from the clan and her special eyes. He saw her glaring at him and was suddenly puzzled. Wait, she's not angry with me because I stole her prey, right? He felt a bit anxious. He didn't want to worsen his relationship with this cold doll. He had seen how, at such times when the protagonist helped them, they would rather fight the protagonist for stealing their prey. But she had such a complex mind that he often found it hard to do things that sat well with her. He too went towards the starting point. It was in the east direction, so he only had to follow that path, and sooner or later, he would be there. On his way back, he met other participants too. The time for the hunt was almost over, and now everyone was returning to the exit. The demons nearby didn't dare come closer to the crowd of children, sensing the huge quantity of espera radiating from the group. So overall, it was an easy trip back. The demon hunt is now officially over. Those who are still inside will be brought back, and the rest of you will now showcase the demons you have caught to the elders. The same elder from before, with a demonic bird as a familiar, appeared once again. He kindly instructed the children. These were all the cream of the crop in the clan, and had great potential. He might even consider taking in one of them as his personal student after discussing it with their families or them. His eyes couldn't help but wander to a white-haired head in the crowd, the distinct sign of royalty in the group. He was among the other elders and had seen the stunt of this little guy at that time. He was ruthless and didn't hesitate to cripple the two siblings either. After they were brought out of the forest, a team of medics who were on standby immediately examined their conditions. They both had been crippled badly, and if not provided with a healing elixir, they would remain that way forever. He had directly crushed their talents and potentials. He could feel that there was an inside story between the two parties. It was as if they had known each other from before this demon hunt. From their actions, it could be related to the small conflict that happened during the gathering before the hunting event, or a matter of revenge between the two. Their eyes were filled with hatred for one another. It was a small matter, but what he was more interested in was Oliver's abilities. He had clearly felt it, but Oliver was just an ordinary child with less than average Espera quantity in his body. It was impossible to believe that he could pull off those two unknown powerful techniques. Those techniques had potential to develop into even more fearsome abilities later on. How in the world did he manage to obtain those techniques, and who created those fearsome techniques in the first place?